Now, more on the markets, on the charges against a UK futures trader involved in that 2010 flash crash. Joining us now is Bloomberg's Jesse Westbrook, who has been covering this story for us. The hearing going on in London right now on this case. Joe Saluzzi joining me as well, the partner at institutional agency broker Themis Trading, who has been a prominent voice on high-frequency trading and also on the flash crash. He's also co-author of the book Broken Markets. So, Jesse, let's start with you as we're getting more details against this guy, Navinder Saral. I think the big question that everyone is asking, okay, this was 2010 when it happened. Why did it take so long to get this guy?
Yeah, I mean, especially since the government already concluded that it was some different guys sitting at a mutual fund in Overland Park, Kansas. I mean, this is sort of quite embarrassing if you think about the conclusions that were drawn in 2010. To a great degree, high-frequency traders somewhat exonerated, and now we're getting sort of a different narrative. And it took so long to catch the guy, and in fact it was a whistleblower who had to help the government catch the guy. So there is a lot of, I mean, at least some egg on the face of the regulators.
Right.
It took one guy, one whistleblower, researching this for a long time. A lot of entities like the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, etc., knocking on this guy's door in London and getting blown off and just sort of, you know, putting their hands up and walking away. And now, you know, we find he was making $40 million manipulating markets and caused a lot of the downward selling pressure in the flash crash. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Something doesn't add up here.
No, and it's bizarre because if he was, you know, in the crosshairs, why was he allowed to continue to trade for so many years up until I think even this year?
Yeah, I mean, that's a key question that we need to know an answer to. I mean, he was clearly on people's radar screens. He was on the CME's radar screen. The FCA in London was asking him questions last year, and there was a lot of evidence that he was dishonest in his replies. But I mean, people can look at data. They can see data that someone is making massive trades in the markets, and it really begs the question: why didn't someone just pull the plug and shut this guy down?
Joe, what do you think?
Well, Betty, this case is about manipulation, right? It's about manipulation. It's about lack of regulatory oversight. Like Jesse said, 5 years. The CME actually showed up and sent a letter to this guy back in 2010, which his broker showed him, and he laughed it off, like Jesse mentioned. What happened during those 5 years? Why wasn't the CME, which is a futures exchange, which runs a vertical silo, right? Which, in other words, there's not multiple exchanges like there are in the equity market, where there's a fragmented mess, as we always talk about. They could have easily seen this. There's something called a tag 50, which identifies a person's order. It tells you where that order is coming from. The day after the flash crash, they could have easily seen that 20 to 29% of the order. Well, it's a very interesting point. I don't know if it's laziness or they wanted to scapegoat a mutual fund for some reason in Kansas City, when in fact it was in their own backyard, in their own house, is where the manipulation and the spoofing was going on. It's a very troubling case, and like Jesse said, there's more questions than answers.
There are. Okay, so Susie Ring, who is our Bloomberg reporter, was actually just actually just outside the Westminster Magistrates Court, where the hearing has been taking place so far on Navinder Saral and this flash crash. So tell us, Susie, what did you hear inside the courthouse?
So today, I mean, it's just been a pre-trial hearing to decide what's going to happen in terms of his extradition. He has said that he's going to fight extradition, and they are yet to decide about whether he'll be released on bail. The prosecutor for the US does not want him to be released on bail because they deem him to be a flight risk, given the long sentences that he could face for the charges that he's faced with.
Okay, Susie, just hang on. Joe, you know, just explain to us exactly what he is accused. You know, we hear spoofing and layering. So explain to us exactly what he's accused of.
What he did was manipulate he took a software program and manipulated it and used it to enter and cancel orders frequently. That is part of that is a definition of what high-frequency trading is, right? However, this was one individual. He didn't have a microwave network set up. He didn't have a co-location facility. He was doing it in his house, okay? And what he was doing was entering and exiting and canceling these orders in order to appear that as if there was selling pressure or buying pressure.
But he can do that from his home?
what makes me wonder is these sophisticated market makers that are out there were actually duped by a guy in his home. And now here's the other question I have. You think this is the only guy doing this?
No.
Do you think there's one guy in the UK?
A lone wolf?
There's thousands of traders all over the globe that have access to the U.S. markets. And it's not just the S&P E-mini that we're talking about. There's other contracts that could easily be manipulated, easily be spoofed. Our friends over at Nanex find this all the time and show it on their own website, yet regulators, for some reason, don't want to go after these guys. I don't understand.
Susie, okay, so we know he's going to fight extradition. So what else do we know about Navinder Sarao?
Yep. Well, I mean, this guy is fascinating. He's coming to the court today. He's wearing sweatpants and a long-sleeve yellow top. Looks younger than his 36 years. So far has only responded to the fact that he's fighting extradition and is clearly in the flux of deciding what's going to happen. And this deal seems to have come out very quickly, and he's in discussions with his lawyer right now. We're going to be going back into the courthouse in about an hour to discuss bail. If he's not granted bail, then he'll be held in custody, and a hearing could be some months away. So that would be quite a big decision to be made. However, with the long charges, with the long years in jail he could be facing if he was found guilty in the US, they obviously do not want him to be out and possibly leaving the country or finding other ways to avoid extradition.
It sounds like quite a character. All right, Susie, thank you so much. I know there's going to be much more on this story. Susie Ring in London. She's going to be heading back into the courthouse. Jesse Westbrook, thank you so much for joining us. And also, Joe, great to see you this morning. Joe Saluzzi of Themis Trading. I'm sure there's going to be much more on this story. Now.